When disaster strikes, count on our proven network of restoration specialists. Visit us online at ServiceMasterRestore.com or call 1-888-RESTORE.
The controversy surrounding Donald Sterling's racist tirade is generating a whole lot of discussion and debate about race relations in the NBA and in this country as a whole. The owner of the LA Clippers got hit with sweeping sanctions, including a lifetime ban from NBA games after he was recorded making racist comments to associate V. Stiviano. Well, joining me here in Atlanta, attorney and radio personality Mo Ivory, and Jason Johnson, a contributor for HLN and political science professor at Hiram College. All right, let's begin with you, Jason. I mean, this is really something else, but it really did kind of hit a nerve in this nation. It was enlightening to many who thought that racism doesn't exist, and then it was a reminder to another segment of the community, who, of our population, who says, I'm aware of this. The only difference is this is a big, wealthy employer. And it was recorded on tape.
Right. Look, it's not shocking to most people who've ever had a bad boss. And that's what's key about this. We can talk about the racial elements, but he was a terrible boss. He abused people. He discriminated against people. He used to take his girlfriends into the locker rooms after the games and say, look at the beautiful black bodies that I own. I mean, the guy had a long history of being a wretched boss. And so I think one of the greatest accomplishments in this is that the players have actually forced the owners to take care of one of their own. And that's a real accomplishment above and beyond the racial issue.
Is it perplexing or even troublesome that this would get a whole lot of attention, but perhaps his track record as someone who owned property and then discriminated against blacks and Latinos didn't get the same kind of attention that this would? There's a track record of bad behavior as it pertains to race.
Yeah, how do you even answer that? Yes,
so what happened? Why is it that this resonates, but the other stuff didn't?
Because it's at the top of the center stage. It's the NBA. There's sex. I mean, this had everything, every element that we needed for it to be, attractive to people to start getting up in arms about it. And so I think that's the reason why. So I really, and what Jason just said about the players, forced the owners to think about this and for hard sanctions. I don't think the players did that at all. I think the tone and America and what would have happened to the NBA if Silver did not come down this way. This is about money. This decision was made to say, don't turn away from the NBA. Don't turn away from the sport that loves and embraces African-American men just because this happened.
But this is under a new commissioner.
Right.
But what does this say? Did the NBA turn a blind
eye all the time?
They turned a blind eye to this in the past. And also, I got to be honest with you, I don't think this happens 10 years ago. I don't think this happens 20 years ago. If you look at the top players in the NBA, maybe in 2004, I don't know that Kobe Bryant comes out and says, I think that this is a problem. There's no place for this guy in the NBA in 2004. I don't know if Jordan necessarily says that in 1994. I think the players involved this year.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
What do you mean by that?
Because I think there was a collective action here. I think LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Jeff Teague, a lot of these players, they didn't have to become involved in this. They could have said, that's a terrible situation to be happening.
Because it was recorded and everyone got to hear it. Whereas
but that's not their team owners.
But we also have social media, which sort of makes the heightened, everybody got involved. I mean, what were they going to do? They had to tweet. They had to social media. Nobody really walked out on a game. Nobody lost any money. Nobody really. So to say I don't think the Jordans or those 10 or 20 years ago would have done that. Well, they don't have the same tools to sort of make their message loud. But what did they really do? What did they really do?
They easily could have just said, that is a problem with that particular franchise, and I don't want to get involved. And we have players do that all the time. Jordan said the same thing about his sneakers. He said the same thing about Republicans. We have that issue.
But the truth about it is that the players on the current Clippers players knew, and so did the NBA, Stern, knew about Donald Sterling's past racist issues, the settlements, the lawsuits, and they still accepted multi-million-dollar contracts from this man. They still allowed him to continue being the owner. So we're only alarmed because he got caught. We're only alarmed because it came on the news and all that. That's it.
Interesting. I know you still disagree with that. Go ahead.
All I can say is, yes, there's a difference between the players who were on the team, who obviously were just chasing those dollars, and the players who aren't on the team who actually stood up for them. And I think that's a difference. I have a lot of respect for the players who are outside of that team who said, look, we're going to stand up for you.
So now you have swift action, or what appears to be very swift action by the new commissioner, Silver, the NBA as a league, owners potentially this week. But then you have Donald Sterling's wife who comes out today, particularly with a statement that says, not so fast. he's not the only owner of this team.
Correct.
I am too.
And legally, when that announcement was made that they were going to put all the owners together and vote to take away his ownership piece, I thought to myself, wait a minute. They can't just decide on 50% of what they want to do. She is a co-owner.
So now this can't be about Donald Sterling. This has to be about the ownership.
The
of this team.
whole of the ownership.
But the reality is, and this is what was also interesting about this, none of us really knew what the NBA Constitution was before.
No,
They never
we didn't know there was one.
Exactly, we didn't know what it was.
We didn't have to think about it.
No one knew that the owners could actually kick him out of the club. And I think that's what's key here. The other owners can vote him out.
I don't know that they really
that can happen.
Yeah, I'm not really sure
I'm
that
not
that's
a lawyer,
what it says they can do. No, they can begin the action to vote to say this is what we want to do, and he can hold it up and hold it up. And there's a bunch of reasons why it could not happen. So I mean, we are at such an early stage of believing that he will no longer be an owner.
Interesting. All right. We still have so much to talk about.
Yes.
But we're going to have to say that for another day. Not because we're out of time, but because there is, I mean, this is such a beefy, incredible situation. And we know that there are continuing to be moving parts in the days to come. We'll have you back. Thanks so much, Jason Mo. Good to see you. Appreciate it. All right. Coming up.